6, going dark.
Defeating the radical left, the Marxists, the agitators, the anarchists. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will liberate America from these villains once and for all. As my first order of business, I hereby declare martial law.
You have to take out their families. When you get these terrorists, you have to take out their families.
Putin's a killer. A lot of killers. You get a lot of killers. Well, you think our country's so innocent?
Death penalty. Bring it forth.
The only good communist is a dead communist!
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism
Americanism, not globalism.
that threatens the very foundations.
Will be our credo.
I'm gonna bomb the shit out of them.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of The Fire Rises. Last time we left off on some pretty big changes, but now I have a little animated sequence for you. I think you'll enjoy this. But first, well, not animated, more like stop motion, but regardless, as we can see here, Biden had just started his assault, and there is many fronts to be explored. So, instead of taking a while, I want to skip to some of the actual action, but I want to show you what the front now is going to start looking like with a little bit of stop motion. So, I also have a cool theme song, and if anyone recognizes it, please put it down in the comments what you think the song is. Europe. Hotbed of activity now, huh? Well, Russia knows it can take advantage. So, he called the European bluff. Look where it got him. He invaded Ukraine, in which Poland has set up a new alliance, the Intermarium, and now they will go forth to defend themselves against Russia. Europe is picking a side. If they side with Biden, they're foregoing democracy and foregoing the fact that Trump won the 2020 election. However, if they side with Trump, Trump will immediately turn their back on them and refuse to help them in any situation. What's best for Europe becomes a continent-wide slogan. What is best for Europe? So, they side with Biden. Lots of nations decide to take their side such as pretty much most of Western Europe, pretty much makes their stance, well, extremely clear. The old members of NATO are not going to get directly involved, but they are going to help. Some way, shape, or form now. European assets are making their way to D.C. Which will help Biden in the long run. But back to the main European conflict. This. Immediately, Poland blitzes down the Belarus border along through the Ukrainian and Lithuanian forces. They continue to steamroll. Meanwhile, the forces in Kaliningrad are kind of stranded. Yes, Kaliningrad is a military bastion, they aren't exactly strong enough. And Finland also takes initiative against Russia. However, Russia has their own tricks. They launch a full march on the Baltic states, coming dangerously close to Tallinn, and they launch a full-on assault. Because they know if Finland takes St. Petersburg by some miracle, their war support will be horrible. So with this, Russia then ramps up the invasion. The invasion of Europe is, well, a shock. China itself, who has recently taken Taiwan, is now ready for some new action. They give someone the go-ahead. The Korean War restarts. They embolden Kim Jong. America is fallen. Now is your time to unite the peninsula. Japan, of course, says, aha, no, we aren't, that ain't happening. If you think that's happening, you're crazy. And so they pretty much instantly, go with supporting the South Korea. So while initially the North Koreans have some minor success, they are immediately repelled by the South Korean military, and an counter-invasion is launched. China realizes, wait, shit, the North Koreans aren't actually as good as we thought, because they're kind of just getting mowed down by the superior tech that is South Korea. And besides, all these big corporations are just kind of running rampant and free. They're offering promises to the government. They're doing a bunch of stuff. So, the corporations in both South Korea and Japan starting to skyrocket, baby. More money is being pumped into them, and suddenly corporations are starting to just have private militaries, because why not? Who's going to stop them? But Japan and South Korea are too busy doing their own thing. When by their own thing, trying to fight off a fucking tyrant. So they continue the fight, and China's starting to realize, wait, shit, this ain't good. Especially when their longtime competitor, India, decides to side with South Korea. Because India hates everything China. An enemy of my enemy is my friend. Meanwhile, back in Europe, chaos is still ensuing as Poland continues towards Minsk, and Russia manages to take some of the first few cities. It's not looking well. They launch another invasion from the north and send three groups on their way to Kiev. Meanwhile, Kaliningrad finally falls. This war is looking fairly even, though Russia manages to take Tallinn. But the Estonian military refuses to give up and is throwing themselves mercilessly at the Russians, bogging them down. Back in America, things are less hopeful for the Trump administration, as soon a full march declared by Biden marches right on, slowly taking ground. Many lives are being lost throughout this forward push. Though, finally, after much fighting, New York finally surrenders. Well, the red part of New York anyways. Though the Patriot Front immediately takes this opportunity to almost capture Albany. However, the Democrats have other plans and manage to push them back. And with new European supplies and troops, they managed to encircle and capture Alabama's capital. With such a big blow, the Alabama militias just start kind of folding. The central state government moves over to Mobile, and the fronts are kind of just falling from there for the League of the South, or the Southern League. So with this, each state is given the proposal to surrender to their own respective areas. Georgia surrenders hers, Alabama surrenders, Florida surrender. Well, this was an invasion, so really there was nothing left, so DeSantis kind of just sweeps and takes. And Trump is now on the high ground. However, of course, these borders aren't set, and immediately Biden forces Russian and Trump forces also Russian. On the verge of they encircle Pensacola even, and Pensacola becomes sort of this bastion. Meanwhile, Trump meets with the Green Party and makes them an offer. They can have Superior and Wisconsin if they surrender the rest of Minnesota, and they will even help take on the Patriot Front. Trump has no intention of keeping this agreement, but it looks good right now. He wants to be seen as a peacemaker. So, he surrenders it all, and immediately a Trump Green Party coalition launches a full-scale attack, managing to push back and take back the whole of the state. Great, wonderful. Trump then focuses his attention on trying to take Chicago back, the city he has slandered so much. Biden is doing relatively okay. I mean, he's pushing on fronts. He's secured his area. All he needs to do is not let the fronts in Florida unite. That's exactly what he's going to try and prevent as he launches another attack into Florida. However, the UN-led team just doesn't receive enough funding anymore and kind of leaves the whole of the south of the state. So, this is not, it's not doing great. But hey, could be worse. Getting back here. Here, South Korea pushes even harder against North Korea and comes right outside the gates of Pyongyang. Kim has a thought. Launch the missiles. And so, Kim Jong-un gives the order. Fire all nuclear warheads. In a flash of a deadly light, Seoul is vaporized in some portions. Busan nuked. Other areas nuked. Hiroshima once again nuked, along with a bunch of other areas, even along the own border. Most miss into the ocean, or just flat out don't launch. And finally, as the armies reach Pyongyang, Kim makes one last order. In the flash of light, the capital is vaporized. Silence. Nothing left. There's the South Korean government effectively collapses. Japan is distraught, and we enter a period known as the Korean Blackout. Anarchy reigns the streets. There is nothing left. Nothing left but dust, fires, blood, and fallout. Japan immediately rushes emergency resources into these key areas, hoping to provide what little support they can. China immediately removes themselves from this situation. They don't want to be seen as the people who instigated this. So they immediately cut off all, even to their own people, they're like, oh, North Korea, they never existed. And, they never existed. It was a joke, And the Korean people, not the Korean people, and the Chinese people are indoctrinated into that. With that, the world is almost left in shock. And for the first time, we're getting into 2022. A whole 2 years of fighting have been going on. Throughout all these episodes, it's been 2 years of chaos. Well, for the first time in 2 years, all fighting on the American continent stops. Trump meets with Biden and the Patriot Front leaders and declares ceasefire. A national day of mourning of the use of nuclear weapons occurs. Trump obviously uses this time to plan for a counterattack, but it's masqueraded as a day of silence. Biden gathers his forces together, and the Patriot Front consolidates what territories they do have. Europe mourns the loss of such a necessary ally in the East. With that, Russia, of course, there's no sleep for the wicked. Russia manages to make their march. And they link up forces to march on Kiev. With this marks the end. The end of an era where we kept saying nukes wouldn't be launched. That maybe the world was becoming stable again. Ever since the American Civil War, it's only proved that it's not. And it's only going to get worse and worse from here. As the 20th decade of the 21st century looms on, nothing but dust and blood will be left for people. And that is where we end this.